In the second half of 12.3, we are going to be working with fractions. We already went over the rules for fractions in 12.2, making sure we have a common denominator, and me just giving the advice that I think it's easier to work with improper fractions. And in the first half of 12.3, we went over the rules for subtracting integers. So let's just combine it together and do some examples here. Please pause after you get the example, try the problem on your own, and then come back and check to see if you did it right. Start by trying to solve negative 3 1/8 minus negative 6 2/3. Okay, so it is a subtraction problem. We're going to change them both to improper fractions. I know that 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25. And I'm going to put that negative with the 25 over 8. I'm going to change my subtraction to addition. And then you have to take the opposite of this negative. So the improper fraction that I change is going to be positive. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 is 20 over 3. And again, remember, we changed the subtraction to, or the negative to a positive. Sometimes what I like to do is within the actual problem, I just change the subtraction to addition, and I take the opposite of the number after it. I do need a common denominator when I solve these. The common denominator for 8 and 3 is 24. So I'm going to write that 24 down here. I'm going to take 8 and multiply it 3 times 3. Negative 25 times 3 is negative 75. I'm going to take 20 over 3 and multiply it by 8 times 8 over 8. So 20 times 8 is 160 over 24. Remember, your denominator is 24 in this problem, and all you're really solving is the numerator, which is negative 75 plus 160. Negative 75 plus 160 is 85. I see that the 160 is positive, and that's my bigger number. So it is going to be positive 85. Now what I have to do is change this to a mixed number. I have to see how many times 24 goes into 85. Knowing my multiples of 24, it's 24, 48, 72, and then after that would be 96. So 3 whole times it goes in. That is 72. Take 72 away from 85, and I get 13 over 24. And it was a positive over a positive, so my final answer is 3 13/24. All right, let's try another example. Let's do 15/18 minus 3 1/6. Give it a try. See how you do. We're going to leave 15/18 15/18. I'm going to change the minus to plus. And then 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19. So that is 19/6, but it's going to be negative 19/6 because this minus becomes a plus and your positive number becomes a negative. I need to find a common denominator for 18 and 6. That common denominator is going to be 18. My first number is already over 18, so we have 15 there. I'm going to multiply the second fraction by 3 over 3 because 6 times 3 is 18. Negative 19 times 3 is negative 57. Since I have that 18 in my denominator, I can keep that there. And remember, you're only dealing with the numerators. So I have 15 plus negative 57. I'm adding numbers with different signs. When the signs are different, I will subtract the numbers. So 57 minus 15 is 42. Since the 57 is bigger and it's negative, that means I have more negatives than positives. So it will be negative 42 over 18. I need to change this to a mixed number because it's improper. 18, 2 18s is 36. 3 18s is 54. So I know that 3 18s is too much. So 2 whole 18s is 36. I take 42 minus 36 and I get 6 over 18. Since it was a negative divided by a positive, my answer is negative 2 and 6/18. I have to notice that my fraction's not reduced. So I'm going to divide by 6 over 6, and I get negative 2 and 1/3. So my final answer is negative 2 and 1/3. How did you do? Okay, 2 more examples. One that has 3 fractions and one evaluating one. So let's look at example C. We're going to do negative 2 minus 2/3 plus negative 1 and 2/5. See all sorts of stuff I need to do, but what I first see is I do have a minus that needs to change to addition and then to take the opposite of the fraction that's next to it. So I'm looking at that right there in the problem. I know that this already is a plus, so I'm not changing that one, and it will not make the negative 1 and 2/5 positive because you don't change addition problems, you only change subtraction. I'm looking at negative 2 over 1 plus negative 2/3 plus 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7/5, and that's negative 7/5. I do notice that all of my numerators are negative, so I'm going to end up adding all of these because they're all the same sign. My common denominator for 1, 3, and 5 is 15. So all of my denominators will be 15. I'm going to multiply the first one by 15 over 15, and I see that I have negative 30/15. I'm going to multiply the second one times 5 over 5, and that gives me negative 10/15. And I'm going to multiply the third one by 3 over 3, and that gives me negative 21/15. I add all 3 numerators because all 3 of them are negative, and I get negative 30 plus negative 10 is negative 40. Negative 40 plus negative 21 is negative 61/15. It is improper. 15s are 15, 30, 45, 60, 75. So 60 is the closest without going over. That's 4 times that with 1 left over out of 15. And because it was a negative divided by a positive, my answer is negative. In our last example, we're going to evaluate an expression where x equals 2/3 and y equals negative 7/8. Let's try negative 3x minus y. Try that out, see how you do. Okay, welcome back. So we have 3x minus y. I'm going to take 3, or negative 3, times 2/3 minus negative 7/8. All right, now I know we haven't done multiplying fractions in a while, but when you have negative 3 times 2/3, you can put negative 3 over 1. And remember, you can simplify vertically, diagonally, but never horizontally. So since this 3 and 3 are on a diagonal, those actually cancel out and both become 1. So I end up with negative 2 over 1 minus negative 7/8. Now I see I have this subtraction problem. And remember, I did the multiplication first because of the order of operations. So with this subtraction problem, then I'm going to change it to addition, take the opposite of the number after it. So I have negative 2 over 1 plus 7/8. Okay, so I need a common denominator. For 1 and 8, it's going to be 8. This already is 7. I'm going to multiply negative 2 over 1 times 8 over 8, because 1 times 8 is 8, and negative 2 times 8 is negative 16. I have 8 in my denominator. I only need to deal with my numerator, negative 16 plus 7. I'm adding numbers with different signs, so I subtract, which is 9, and I give the sign of the bigger absolute value, or what I have more of. I have more negatives than positives, so it's negative 9/8, which changes to negative 1 and 1/8. All right, now it's time for you to try this on your own. Good luck. Make sure you check your work.